right, so I want to thank Kenny and Drew again for their spirited defense of ethical meat, as I think they would call it, and also thank them for agreeing that the vast majority of the meat in this country is, as Drew says, an abomination. And that's 100% of the meat in a dining hall. It's 100% of the meat in the vast majority of grocery stores and restaurants here in Austin. And I want to just run over what I think there's a consensus on briefly in about 2 minutes, and then I'll address their arguments. First, to remind you from Livestock's Long Shadow, every time you eat meat other than the very few farms that are like Joel Salatin's at Polyface Farms, you're doing something that requires 20 times the resources of something else, and that according to United Nations agricultural scientists is contributing to land degradation, climate change, air pollution, water shortage, water pollution, loss of biodiversity, and it's the #1 source of global warming. You are also stealing food out of the mouths of the poor. It is certainly true that we're wasting vast quantities of food. It is also true that if you are eating meat, you're wasting 95% of the calories that were produced to make that meat, 95% of them fed to the animals so that you can eat meat. For every calorie you're taking in, you're wasting 19. According to World Watch Institute, meat production is an inefficient use of grain. The grain is used more efficiently when consumed directly by humans. Continued growth in meat output is dependent on feeding grain to animals, creating competition for grain between affluent meat eaters and the world's poor. And then on the issue of cruelty to animals, as Drew and Kenny agreed, the vast majority of it is an abomination. The animals are treated hideously. I do want to remind us that all animals are more like us than they're unlike us. As Darwin said, other animals, like humans, manifestly feel pleasure and pain, happiness and misery. There really is no difference between eating a chicken and a cat, a pig and a dog. And in fact, chickens and pigs do better on cognition tests. They're smarter than cats or dogs. We've got some awesome video of animal behavior studies. Chickens learning from television, chickens learning to navigate mazes, pigs playing video games. That is awesome. They put that joystick in their mouth and they go like this. It's fantastic. If you go to goveg.com and click on videos and scroll down to educational, very, very cute. So I want to just quickly address the things that Kenny and Drew said. In addition to the fact that it's an abomination, and honestly, if everybody here leaves here recognizing that 99% of meat produced in this country is unethical to eat, I'll be pretty happy. Where practical ethics are concerned, we agree on 99%. We only disagree on 1%, which is better, I think, than you can say for most dialogue. On the cruelty issue, I do want to point out that Joel Salatin's farm, they debeak the laying hens. The pigs are castrated without pain relief. Their teeth, like deep-seated dental surgery, are ripped out without pain relief. Their tails are chopped off. Their ears are mutilated. In the level of abuse, it's exponentially less bad than factory farming, but Joel himself will admit that it's pretty bad. A lot of people sort of, shrinked back when they showed the chicken slaughter. That's a heck of a lot better than standard chicken slaughter for most of the 10 billion animals who are slaughtered in this country. But they are still conscious. It's just not true. And Joel wouldn't make the assertion that they don't feel it. He also wouldn't make the assertion that they don't see it coming. You saw the chicken watching the other chickens being slaughtered. They're smarter than dogs and cats. They see it coming. Is it exponentially better than what you're going to get at KFC? Yes. Is it kind? By no stretch of the imagination. The other thing that Joel complains about is the fact that he has to ship his pigs and his cows on the backs of gas-guzzling, pollution-spewing vehicles 10 to 20 hours to slaughterhouses over which he has no control. The Sunday New York Times just 3 weeks ago did an expose of these slaughterhouses. Some of them have been closed down. The Humane Farm slaughterhouses closed down for cruelty. The chickens he slaughters on site, and he gets around the federal law that says that they're supposed to be shocked unconscious before their throats are slit because he's got such a small-scale operation. But they are all still conscious when their throats are slit open. On the environmental issue, I would again point out those animals are shipped on gas-guzzling, pollution-spewing vehicles long distances to slaughter, and even if they're eating grass, they're still producing an awful lot of methane, which is 20 times as powerful as carbon dioxide as a global warming gas. That's what we're supporting, even at so-called humane farms. Finding a farm like Joel's, by the way, there aren't any in Texas. There aren't any anywhere near here. There are 3 of them in the entire country, and the rest of the farms is so-called humane meat. It's basically unregulated. It's few and far between, and I would challenge you to go visit one of these farms and see if you agree that what's happening there is something that you support. I take you back to Shelley and the challenge of integrity. If you would not personally do it, don't pay somebody else to do it for you. If you're eating meat, you're supporting environmental problems, you're stealing food out of the mouths of the global poor, and you're paying people to treat animals in ways you wouldn't personally do it, even on Joel Salatin's polyface farm. The only ethical choice is a vegetarian one. Thank you.
Question and answer section, so yes.
Does anybody know how to turn this off? Oh, you can do it? Okay. Right.
So you give great arguments for why we're supposed to be vegetarian, and I agree with you, even though I'm a meat eater. But shouldn't we be vegan? Because if you're a vegetarian, then you're still having milk and still having cheese and eggs, and these come from these industrial agriculture. So shouldn't you argue that you should be a vegan and not a vegetarian?
Well, yes, and I've been a vegan for 22 years now, and I do advocate veganism. I think for people who are meat eaters, it's reasonable to say doing something is a heck of a lot better than doing nothing. And so for audiences of meat eaters, we tend to focus on vegetarianism simply because it's a great first step. Like if you are a meat eater, you're eating about 100 animals in a year. If you are a vegan, but as a vegan, you save like 3 more. Is that important? Do those animals suffer miserably? Is it vastly inefficient? All of these arguments still apply to dairy and eggs. And it's a next step for most people. Very few people go from meat eater to vegan.
And last quick question. How unethical is it to eat meat out of the U.S. then?
Out of the U.S.?
Because I think most of the things that you're saying is in the U.S. What are these studies going? I'm from Colombia, South America, and I know my parents have a farm, and I know that they don't treat animals like this. I live it.
Yeah, I mean the United Nations report, it looks at the global meat industry.
And isn't this more biased for like the U.S. does a lot of things compared to everybody else, and your people are more centered about how you're supposed to eat meat, and consumption of meat is much less, and it's mostly all organic.
Well, it's much less, but it's very much not organic. I mean, in Europe, less than 1% of meat consumption is organic. In the UK, it's getting better, but in most of Europe, it's not especially good. It's not especially good in Central or South America either. I mean, the global hunger arguments and the environmental arguments are just as strong anywhere you go. The cruelty argument can vary from place to place, but it's just as strong in most of Europe. It's certainly just as strong in Canada, Australia. It's even worse in Mexico.
Thank you.
In regards to poverty contribution, what about, you said that like a lot of land has been converted into farmland for the animals. Why isn't that seen as like another avenue for revenue for people in these developing countries as opposed to stealing food from people?
Well, it's a cash crop, right? I mean, it's a revenue for the rich in these countries, as is, the bigger issue is converting sustainable agriculture into export agriculture. So, for example, throughout the famine in Ethiopia in the 1980s, throughout the famine in Somalia in the 1990s, both of those countries, through the entire famine, as millions of people starved to death, those countries were exporting soy and linseed to Europe to feed to agricultural animals. Now, is that a huge socio-economic issue? Yes. But if the demand had not been there to grow those crops to feed them to agricultural animals, the price would have been lower and more people would have eaten. And that was the 80s and 90s, before the global agreement on tariffs and trade. I mean, the more internationally we become this vast free market, the easier it is to have this sort of neo-colonialism which uses developing countries basically as resources for rich people. And one way that that happens is creating more export markets and less sustainability.
And the questions are open to both parties.